Right now, as you're watching this, someone with less talent than you is accomplishing the dream you gave up on. Why? Not because they're smarter, more gifted, or more qualified. They're just less afraid. Dr. Myles Munroe discovered that fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. And today, we're going to dismantle fear once and for all. Get ready. This is the message that sets you free. Let's go. Hey incredible people. Welcome back to the channel. And today we're tackling the giant that's held you back longer than any other obstacle, fear. Fear of failure. Fear of rejection. Fear of what people will think. Fear of not being good enough. Fear of success. Fear of the unknown. Fear has 1,000 faces, but it has one purpose: to stop you from becoming who God created you to be. But Dr. Myles Munroe spent his life teaching people how to conquer fear. Not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by understanding what it is, where it comes from, and how to defeat it with faith. And by the end of this video, fear will no longer have power over you. First, we need to understand what fear actually is, because you can't defeat an enemy you don't understand. Dr. Munroe taught that fear is faith in the enemy. Think about that. Fear isn't the absence of faith. It's faith pointed in the wrong direction. When you fear, you're believing something will happen. You're exercising faith, just negative faith. Fear says, I believe I'm going to fail. I believe people will reject me. I believe I'm not capable. I believe things will go wrong. That's faith, twisted, toxic, destructive faith, but it's faith nonetheless. Job 3 verse 25 says, What I feared has come upon me. What I dreaded has happened to me. Job's fear became his reality. Not because fear is powerful, but because fear is faith in the negative, and faith creates reality. Here's what's wild. The same energy you use to worry could be used to believe. The same mental capacity you use to imagine worst-case scenarios could be used to envision breakthrough. Fear and faith use the same mechanism, expectation, but they point in opposite directions. Now, where does fear come from? 2 Timothy 1 verse 7 gives us the answer. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Did you catch that? God didn't give you fear. Fear is not from God. So if God didn't give it to you, who did? The enemy. Fear is one of Satan's primary weapons because it paralyzes, immobilizes, and neutralizes God's people. Think about it. Adam and Eve sinned, and the first emotion mentioned is fear. Genesis 3 verse 10. I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid. Fear entered humanity through sin, and Satan has been using it ever since. Dr. Munroe would say, fear is not a feeling to manage. It's a spirit to resist. You don't negotiate with fear. You cast it out in Jesus' name. Now let's identify the specific types of fear that are holding you back. Because fear wears many disguises, and you need to recognize them. Fear type 1, fear of failure. What if I try and it doesn't work? What if I embarrass myself? What if I waste time and resources? So you never try, you never start. You play it safe and call it wisdom. But Dr. Munroe would say, the only real failure is dying with your potential still inside you. Everything else is just feedback. Fear type 2, fear of rejection. What if they don't like me? What if they say no? What if I'm not accepted? So you dim your light. You hide your gifts. You become someone you're not just to fit in. Fear type 3, fear of success. Yes, this is real. What if I succeed and can't handle it? What if people expect more from me? What if I get promoted and fail at the higher level? So you sabotage yourself right before breakthrough. Fear type 4, fear of people's opinions. What will they think? What will they say? What if they judge me? So you sacrifice your calling on the altar of public opinion. You live for their approval instead of God's assignment. Fear type 5, fear of the unknown. I can't see the whole staircase. I don't know how it'll work out. I don't have all the answers. So you stay stuck in familiar misery instead of stepping into uncertain breakthrough. Fear type 6, fear of not being good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not talented enough. I don't have enough experience. So you disqualify yourself before God even gets a chance to use you. Fear type 7. Fear of abandonment. What if God leaves me? What if people abandon me? What if I end up alone? So you cling to toxic relationships and tolerate disrespect because you're afraid of being by yourself. And fear type 8. Fear disguised as wisdom. This one's sneaky. You call it being realistic, or being smart, or being cautious. But it's just fear dressed up in a suit. Here's the truth. Every one of these fears has the same goal: to keep you from your destiny, to keep you small, to keep you silent, to keep you stuck, to keep you from becoming the threat to darkness that God created you to be. Now let's talk about the antidote to fear, faith. Because you can't just remove fear and leave a vacuum. You have to replace fear with faith. Fear looks at the problem. Faith looks at the provider. Fear says, the obstacle is too big. Faith says, my God is bigger. Fear focuses on what you lack. Faith focuses on what God has. Fear says, I don't have enough. Faith says, God is more than enough. Fear sees giants. Faith sees a giant-killing God. Remember David and Goliath? Everyone else saw a giant too big to fight. David saw a giant too big to miss. Fear paralyzes. Faith mobilizes. Fear asks, what if it doesn't work? Faith declares, what if it does? Fear retreats. Faith advances. Dr. Munroe taught that fear and faith cannot coexist. Romans 8 verse 15 says, you did not receive a spirit that makes you a slave again to fear, but you received the spirit of sonship. You're either operating in the spirit of fear or the spirit of sonship. You can't have both. Here's the key difference. Fear believes in the enemy's power. Faith believes in God's promises. Fear trusts what you see. Faith trusts what God said. Hebrews 11 verse 1 says, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. Faith doesn't need to see the whole path. Faith just needs to see the first step. And here's what I love about faith. Faith doesn't deny the reality of the obstacle. Faith just affirms the greater reality of God's power. David didn't say, there's no giant. He said, this giant is no match for my God. So the question isn't whether you'll face fearful situations. The question is, which voice will you listen to? Fear's voice or faith's voice? Fear's predictions or God's promises? Now let's get practical. How do you actually overcome fear? How do you move from paralysis to power? Dr. Munroe gave us a clear strategy. Step 1, identify the fear. Name it. Call it out. I'm afraid of failure. I'm afraid of rejection. You can't fight what you won't acknowledge. Bring it into the light. Step 2, recognize the source. Remember, fear is not from God. When you feel fear rising, say out loud, this is not from God. This is from the enemy, and I reject it. Step 3, replace fear with truth. For every fear, there's a scripture that contradicts it. Fear says, you're going to fail. Philippians 4 verse 13 says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Fear says, God has forgotten you. Hebrews 13 verse 5 says, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. Step 4, speak to your fear. Don't just think positively, speak authoritatively. Say, fear, you have no place in my life. I cast you out in Jesus' name. I walk in faith, not fear. Step 5, do the thing you fear. This is crucial. You don't overcome fear by avoiding what scares you. You overcome fear by doing it scared. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Dr. Munroe would say, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in the presence of fear. Step 6, surround yourself with faith-filled people. Fear is contagious, but so is faith. Get around people who believe God, who speak faith, who take risks. Distance yourself from people who fuel your fears. Step 7, Remember past victories. When fear whispers, "You can't do this," remind yourself of the times God came through before. Build an altar of remembrance. Keep a testimony journal. And step 8. Focus on purpose, not fear. When your why is big enough, your fear becomes small. When you're focused on your assignment, fear loses its grip. Dr. Munroe taught, "Don't let fear tell you what you can't do. Let God tell you what you will do." That shift in focus changes everything. Let me tell you about Michael. For 10 years, Michael had a dream to start a nonprofit helping at-risk youth. He had the vision, the passion, the plan. But fear paralyzed him. What if I can't raise the money? What if it fails? What if people think I'm unqualified? So year after year, Michael stayed in his comfortable job, dreaming but never doing. Until he attended one of Dr. Munroe's conferences and heard this message on overcoming fear. Dr. Munroe said something that broke through. The graveyard is full of people who let fear steal their assignments. Don't die with your music still in you. Michael went home, got on his knees and said, "God, I've been more afraid of failure than I've been committed to you. Today I choose faith. I'm starting this nonprofit even if I'm terrified." The next day, Michael registered the nonprofit. He had no funding, no building, no staff, just faith and obedience. Within 3 months, a businessman heard about the vision and donated seed funding. Within 6 months, they had a building. Within a year, they'd helped 50 youth. Today, 12 years later, Michael's nonprofit has impacted over 5,000 young people. Michael told me, "The dream was always possible. I just had to be more afraid of disobeying God than I was of the what-ifs. When I stepped out in faith, God met me in my fear." Here's what's powerful. Michael didn't wait until he wasn't afraid. He acted while he was still afraid. That's the key. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be faithful. All right, let's activate this in your life right now. I'm going to give you a fear-breaking challenge for the next 7 days. Day 1. Write down the top 3 fears that have been holding you back. Name them specifically. Bring them into the light. Day 2. For each fear, find one scripture that contradicts it. Write those scriptures on note cards and read them out loud 10 times. Day 3. Do one thing this week that scares you. Have that conversation. Submit that application. Start that project. Make that call. Do it scared. Day 4. Tell someone you trust about your fear. Say it out loud. I've been afraid of blank, but I'm choosing faith. Speaking it breaks its power. Day 5. Remove one fear-feeding influence. Unfollow that negative person on social media. Stop watching that news channel that increases anxiety. Distance yourself from fear feeders. Day 6. Write down 3 times God came through for you in the past. When fear whispers, "He won't show up," remind yourself, "He's never failed me before." Day 7. Make a faith declaration. Stand in front of a mirror and say, "I am not a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I walk by faith, not by sight. Fear has no authority over my life. I am more than a conqueror through Christ." Say it until you believe it. Say it until your spirit rises up. Say it until fear recognizes it's facing someone who won't back down. Dr. Munroe said, "You must fight fear with faith, doubt with declarations, and worry with worship." This 7-day challenge does exactly that. If this message is stirring something inside you, if you're done letting fear run your life, if you're ready to step into what God has called you to do, hit that like button and tell me in the comments. What fear are you confronting this week? What's the one thing you're going to do scared? And listen, if you want to join a community of people who are choosing faith over fear, who are taking bold steps despite uncertainty, who refuse to let fear steal their destiny, subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell. We're building an army of faith walkers. Join us. I want to leave you with this truth. Your fear is lying to you. It's been lying to you your whole life. It told you that you'd fail. It told you that people would reject you. It told you that you weren't good enough. And you believed it. But today, you're calling fear's bluff. Today, you're saying, I'm done listening to you. I'm listening to my Father instead. God didn't bring you this far to leave you. He didn't put that dream in you to mock you. He didn't call you to abandon you. So stop letting fear write your story. Feel the fear if you must, but do it anyway. Acknowledge the risk, but take it anyway. Recognize the obstacle, but face it anyway. Because on the other side of your fear is your future. Joshua 1 verse 9 says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." You are not alone in this. God is with you. So go. Step out. Take the risk. Do the scared thing. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, walk in faith, not fear. God bless you.